Today we're going to be fitting a set of Oxford heated grips to a 2014 Triumph Speed Triple. The grips are universal and should fit most motorbikes. I've recently fitted some of these to a 2016 Speed Triple. The fitting procedure is exactly the same. The first thing we need to do is take the grips off. You don't need to cut these off, you can take them off without damaging them. I've already taken the bar ends off. To take them off without damaging them, slide a screwdriver underneath. It helps to lubricate it with a little bit of WD-40 or GT85, whatever you have at hand. The throttle side is a little bit more involving. There's grooves or ribs on the inside, so you've got to kind of lift it over that. So as you may be able to see in the video, there are grooves on the throttle sleeve. These all need to come off. We'll be taking those off with a Stanley blade. The reason that the ribs or grooves need to come off the throttle sleeve is because the original grip is quite flexible and will easily lift over them and secure themselves, whereas the Oxford grip is very solid and it needs to slide on and be secured with glue. Okay, to get these off is a little time consuming, so the quickest thing to start with is a Stanley blade. You just carefully slice them off. These ribs on the end also need to come off. There's little inner lugs there which I'm also trying to carefully take off. Okay, once you've got the majority of the high pieces off, you then need to rub it down with a piece of sandpaper. What you're trying to achieve is to be able to slide the grip on with very light resistance. You don't want to be forcing it on there because you may break the mechanism. It's quite tedious, we'll probably fast forward through a majority of this. Okay, remember to keep testing it every now and again. Again, like I say, you don't want to force it on, and of course you can't lubricate it because you're going to use glue to secure it in place. If you attempt to force it on, what may happen is you let it break it, or you get it stuck halfway on, and then you're going to have to damage it to get it back off. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. That's pretty much all the way on. Should come on and off relatively easily. Just be a little bit careful sometimes, just can cause it to struggle to get on. Sometimes, as you can see in there, you'll have a little bit of cast-in rubber, I suppose, little tangs of rubber. Try to pull those off because that can cause it to give trouble getting on. Okay, this one's nearly there, pretty much all the way, and a little bit tight at the end. Don't be tempted to try and jam it on. Take your time, get some more of the plastic off. Okay, now you've got to decide how you're going to have the cable sitting on the throttle body. Remember, you are going to be turning the throttle, so that's going to be flicking it that way. So if it's that way, try to get the camera around it, you know. Okay. So if it's that way, you're going to find the cable is going to hit against the brake lever. So I found it was best in that position. And turn it. Not going to whack against anything. So that again, that's coming there, and the brake gear doesn't come in. It's quite close actually, so perhaps we'll turn that again a little bit more, pull it off slightly. It can look like it's hanging out a little bit, but once that's tucked under there, I'll have a little bit of a loop, and it will turn in that fashion. We'll have a look at that now in a second. So that looks like it isn't interfering with anything. Also make sure when you put the grip on that you don't get it too close to the throttle housing. You don't want that snagging up against the body and then it won't return properly. You've got a bit of a lip here where the handlebar sticks out. Again, you don't want your bar end, the bar end mirrors going on this one. You don't want your bar end pressing up against that. You can trim these, a little bit there that can come off, but this is fine. Okay, so once you've dry fitted the grip, I think a good idea is to put something on the throttle body which kind of lines up, let's say, with the word Oxford. Okay, before fitting the grip to the bike, it's a good idea to have a test to make sure the grips are actually working. You don't really want to put it on the bike and then find that you've purchased a faulty grip. So I'm just going to loosely wire the kit together. Okay, so we're going to just loosely mop this up. You can't really get this wrong. So this is your lead from your battery. This is your lead to your controller. Can't go on incorrectly. And then these are your leads to either handlebar. Doesn't matter which way they go down. Okay, so you don't need to power the bike up as it's directly linked to the battery. So we're just going to put it on full blast. Just going to put the heat up. Okay, they're getting nice and hot. You don't want to fit a non-working grip and glue it on. But if you can see there, that's already flashing green. It's been on for a few minutes. When the controller notices that there's no power going to the battery, so it knows the engine isn't running, that'll flash for a little while and then eventually turn itself off. Safety feature, should it be left on by mistake or somebody comes along and presses it. Okay, let's get some glue. Sleeve it on. I really think you'll have to go mad. It's relatively tight anyway. A little bit inside. Okay, I'm lining up now. Little marker. So we've got a nice little gap there. So you don't want to go in too tight, you don't want to snag in. And you've got a little bit of room on the edge, so the bar end doesn't snag up. It's turning quite nicely. And you can see once it's turned, the brake lever doesn't touch, and that brake lever is at its closest point. You can just move it out. There's no any there. Let's have a dry fit of the other side. So I'd say we'll put that in exactly the same position so it looks symmetrical. Don't really want to beat that the way around, it'll just look a bit odd. So that's quite well. Again, I'm going to try and put it in a similar position. Okay. Glue. Does work very, very quick. Of course, it doesn't matter how close it gets there, because obviously it doesn't turn. Now we've got to screw the controller to the mount, and then mount the controller there. And what they give you in the kit is a couple of spacers and extra long bolts to go through here. I'm going to try and dry fit this first before I start screwing anything to this. I don't think this is going to fit properly. I may have to bend this slightly. As you can see, when I'm trying to fit this fit in here, which is for the original standard mirrors, kind of get in the way. If I turn it upside down, it doesn't. Now I know it says up on here, but I think that's only because it's got the thing for the mirrors. Then it would fit on quite nicely, probably with the original bolts. But what is strange is if I did want to keep the original mirrors, how am I going to put that? Okay, so dry fitted that. Again, this little lug at the end, which I've now turned upside down, it's kind of getting in the way of this wire, so I can't turn it up any more than that, but that was the original position that it was in, so that's okay. And that should fit okay. Now this isn't my bike. If it was, I would probably spray that with a bit of matte black. Okay, we're just going to screw these on. Okay, so it was easier to screw this together on the bench rather than just dropping screws into the bike. Okay, now we're going to run the wires. Okay, we're going to run the cable for the controller nice and neatly. And down with the bracket, all the other wires go. The kit comes with some cable ties, so we'll tie that up later. I'm just going to bring it back under around the fork, and we're going to try and tidy it up and put it all neatly around the battery. This cable is going to go the same, the left hand grip cable. And this one's the important one. When you do cable tie this down, just make sure there's enough slack so you can move it around. You don't need it too tight and then struggling to move it. That said, it does move quite well from there. You may find when you're trying to fit the cables, you may have a little bit of trouble because the nut won't be long enough. This bike has an Optimate fitted to it. It has now the heated grips fitted to it. It also has the heated vest cable fitted to it. But luckily you can use the nuts, the spare nuts, or bolts should I say, that come with a kit. You have to cut them down a little bit with a hacksaw, and then they will fit. Always make sure they're nice and snug, not anything shorting out. But of course don't overdo it. Okay, now for the hard part. got to try and get all this wiring tucked underneath the tank cover. There's a reasonable amount of room underneath there. The best thing to do is take one of the wires at a time, bunch them back together using the cable ties that came with it, the original ones, and try and bunch them together. You can probably find a little slot there to put that in. That looks pretty cool. And then we've got this one. A bit more tricky. Just going to connect that one first of all. All the wires up the way. Just trying to tuck those so they're reasonably neat. Okay, I've got this front panel roughly secured back on the tank. Is okay, that'll go in nicely. I'm just going to cable tie these group of cables together. So just turn the throttle so the cable's at its most stretched. Same on this side. Bunch them together. Before you put your cover back over, put your heated grips back on just to make sure everything's good. But always remember to turn your handlebars lock to lock to make sure nothing is snagging, no wires are pulling. Put the front panel back on. Good, the grips are getting nice and hot. Okay, there we go. That is it, a set of grips fitted.